Emotional binge eating is the topic for today's Calmsutra in the lockdown conversation. Now we know we don't want to eat emotionally and we understand that stress eating is not helpful, but for some reason we cannot refrain from doing it. So if you have the problem of emotional eating, this conversation, this entire so-called discussion will be really helpful. So if you're joining in new, let me tell you that this is a 21-day anxiety journaling workshop, and every day I talk about one topic, one issue that causes anxiety, has been causing anxiety to all of us in these 18 months, and we find ways to go around it. You know, the fundamental belief with which I'm working with this simple technique of journaling is you are the controller, the designer, the creator of your emotional experience, in a way, of your life. So if we start looking at small areas which are not working for us, things that are standing against us, that things we cannot go beyond, then we'll be able to go around this problem, and simply by doing the journaling technique and the Calmsutra stroke. So thank you so much for people who are joining in new. Thank you so much for everybody who is sharing this workshop details with one another. Yesterday we crossed 1500 registrations, so which is amazing, which is great. We get to spread this concept, or the word about this concept, to so many people. It's unbelievable. So let's get into today's conversation about binge eating. So before I start, do you binge eat? Do you have the stress eating response or emotional eating response as your problem? If that is the case, send me a thumbs up so that I know that so many people who kind of keep doing this. So I don't have many things, but chips, like a full salt, is one area where we absolutely crave eating habits like that. Then we have sugar, anything sweet. So we have a few things here which are absolutely sugar based, and then we have stimulants. This is coffee. It smells so good. I don't remember last time when I had proper coffee or black coffee, but we do have things like stimulants like tea, coffee, obviously alcohol I did not mention, but things that we understand are not necessarily helpful, but are our go-to mechanisms when we get into binge eating, emotional eating. So during the lockdown, people have been doing this a lot. They are constantly struggling with this problem of overeating, binge eating, eating to feel something different. So let me tell you that I am no expert when it comes to what you should be eating. You know, that's like people require study in diet and all of that. So I'm not going to talk about what you should be eating because I'm no expert in that. But there is this whole area of how you should eat, or what kind of emotional relationship or emotional dependency you have on food, and that's the area to talk about. It's not about exactly what you're eating. I have rarely met somebody who would eat real healthy food as binge eating. So comfort foods, as we all know, are things that are not supposed to be eaten. All amazing things like chocolate and desserts are considered as your not to be eaten food, and where it comes from is because we create stimulation by eating. So a few reasons before I step into it. People are still joining in. So this a few things to keep in mind is people overeat or binge eat when they are stressed for following reasons. One, you do not know what is causing you that emptiness within. So when you do not understand what is causing the emptiness, it is a natural tendency for people to fill themselves in, and the easiest way to fill yourself is by filling in food. So that happens for sure. Second reason why people get into binge eating or stress eating, because they are bored. And you're like, what? Am I eating so much because I'm simply bored? Yes. Food is the easiest way to feel stimulation. So if you eat excessive sugar or excessive salt, or if you have tea or coffee, it gives you that instant stimulation and you feel that something exciting is happening right now, which otherwise you do not feel. So if you are lacking those kind of stimulations in your life or your everyday, you know, the way you're going about, you will feel the need of eating specific things, and that's why we crave stuff, right? Like the craving is such an essential aspect of binge eating. Is you don't want to eat anything, but you want to eat particular kind of chips and you want to eat that particular kind of dessert. Now if we are falling into these aspects, then understand that there is something, that craving, that excessive dependency on food comes from something being off. Now, this whole conversation about emotional eating started because one of our participants wrote to me saying that, after third day of journaling, suddenly I realized that I felt like crying a lot, and every day, for all those 3 days, I kept crying, and I reached a point where I felt that as I'm emotionally letting all of this burden go, I was eating for last 1 month non-stop, and after that third day of crying out or like letting that outlet to my emotions, I did not feel like eating as much. Now that was a correlation, and then I started talking about, and I started asking people around, participants, some of you might have received my messages, saying that how is it happening? Are you eating more? What is the case? And then I obviously looked at your handwriting to find the correlations of people who are stepping into this whole dependencies on addictions and things to feel better. Now, people who are anxious also have the hyper need of fixing their problems by eating. So if that is happening, first thing first is you notice where all are you binge eating, what kind of food do you eat, is it sugar based, is it salt based, and let's talk about the relationship here. Okay, it's important that when you talk about food, it's not only nurturing for our bodies but for our minds too. And if we understand the whole correlation, food is always associated with some or other emotional connect. When we are happy, when you want to celebrate, we associate food as a celebratory idea. When we feel sad, all movies we have seen, people buy those big tubs of ice creams and they binge into it, and the whole eating ice cream to feel better. When you're PMSing, I know so many girls, they're like, oh my god, I'm PMSing right now, I have to eat chocolate, I have to eat spicy things. So sometimes your body requires these things to just make you feel better. The problem happens when we do not know where to stop, where to draw a line, and this is where food becomes a compulsive habit. Now, I've been speaking about this pretty much every single day. Anything that becomes compulsive, anything that starts controlling you instead of you making a choice, becomes a problem. So if you begin eating because you want to eat, which is like a good thing or a great thing, the very moment it becomes uncontrollable, it happens and you cannot stop it, that becomes a challenge. So first, as I was saying, figure out what kind of food do you eat when you're going through this so-called cycle of emotional eating. Now, second thing what we would do is we would observe do you really require that kind of food? During the lockdown, when our physical activities are lesser, we require definitely lesser amount of food. So many people, when they're thirsty, they feel that they're hungry, and you say, what rubbish, how can that be possible? And I'm not saying this because of my own observations, but many dietitians have spoken about it. There are research papers on this topic, that we eat when we are thirsty, because people just do not know how to differentiate between the two. Unfortunately so, but that's happening a lot. So when you're thirsty, so please take a moment, and all I'm saying is, can we bring in awareness to our eating? The emotional pangs that we feel are about the need to feel literally connected to something. When we do not have people to connect to, we connect to food, and we literally fill ourselves to fill the void that we feel inside. If that is happening, if that is causing, if it is your anxiety response, and which also means you will be addicted to food in different ways, you would find reasons to connect to food, or like constantly be very, 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 very dependent on the thing. So let me give you an example. Back in the day, I got into coffee, and I can't even say I was addicted, but I got into coffee, which means I had the grande every single day, pretty much one grande through the day. So I kept on using the stimulation with coffee till a point I realized that it absolutely against my body nature, and it was so tough for me to stop it, because coffee was one thing that I was indulging into it completely. So I would, every time I traveled, I got those single listed coffees, and I ground them the way I wanted, I got them roasted the way I wanted. Every time friends friends travel, they say, what do you want, Aditi? Coffee was like first thing I kept asking. And then I realized that the coffee is not helping my body, and it took a long time for me to realize, because I know more awareness that you spend with your body, you'll realize that those things with your body and body responses can actually become your guiding force. So we do it unconsciously because that is just a sense of comfort. So everywhere you're using food as comfort, what are the emotions underneath that is what we want to find out. Let me rephrase this sentence or this question for you. So today's question is, we'll begin by understanding what is your relationship with food. Sometimes people are abusive when it comes to food. They do not eat at all. They absolutely, like get to a point where body just feel, because you're feeling low, when you actually feel that sense of anxiety, you just cut food off from your life, because for some reason staying away from food works for some people, or that's what they believe. And then the second aspect, people overeat, where they constantly keep filling themselves up. Now these both are extremes, but both are reactions to the compulsive need to suffer and abuse your body in order to feel the same emotion that you're feeling, or to compensate for the feeling that you have. Now, how to build that awareness? The most important aspect of building that awareness is building a relationship with your food. Now, I have been speaking a lot about using senses when it comes to doing any activity, picking anything that you want to do. So when you have like that whole idea of building senses, so it's a very old Indian way of eating, and I have adopted this last 3 years, and I think this is phenomenal, that I started using the whole idea of sitting calmly before eating. No phones, no distractions, ideally no conversations, but food is shared, so that's something I don't think I can do as of now. So but no otherwise distractions while eating, no watching TV, no listening to anything, absolutely you and your food. It takes literally 15 to 20 minutes for us to have our meals, and we can give that much time to our bodies for sure. So first thing is, I sit down and I pray. You need not pray, it depends on your religious belief, but like literally grounding yourself. So sitting in a way that you are calm before eating can be of real help. So many times the awareness is not built because we are rushing while eating. We are the culture of fast food, and fast food also means eating while walking, carrying your food around, takeaways. Now when we do all of this, we are not giving our bodies the enough time for awareness. So if you are committed to build the awareness, first thing first, start by actually setting your time or setting yourself to eat, and 15 minutes of time for food won't take much away from you. Second thing I do, and I feel you can choose to do that, it need not be about fancy crockery, but it can be about things that you like to eat in, the whole experience for your mind and body. And we are talking a lot about using body to connect with our food. So when you have multiple colors, when the food is presented well and not like mixed together, if it is ramen, is a different story, or like if you're eating soup noodles, different story. But if you're eating food otherwise, then food that is palatable, food that is presented in a better manner, actually connects to you and your body in a better way. So the fanciest things that one can, how people have fancy crockeries and they use it once in a while when the guests are over. In my house we use it every single day, and you're like, but will that not get spoiled or whatever? Like, I believe that every day, if you have that kind of connection and importance to the food that goes inside your body and becomes you. And I read this concept and I was like blown away. Somebody was talking about whatever you eat, if something that is on your plate right now, eventually when you eat it becomes your body. And if you're putting things, and they will build your cell, and that's why when we eat good food, the skin is better, because somewhere the food is converting and giving you all the nutrients required for your body to become that food. So if the food that you're going to eat going to become your body, so that much respect and that much attention and that much involvement it requires. So if you are willing to build that relationship, like any other relationship, if you have to build a relationship with even a pet that you have, it begins by paying attention, it begins by spending that level of involvement in that relationship, right? So food is no different in this case, and we will build the same idea with food. So even if you're eating alone, which is a topic we spoke a few days ago about being lonely and some people struggle to eat alone and all of that, if your relationship with food is an independent idea, it's about you and your food, then automatically you will know how much to eat, what to eat, how to eat, but it has to be a pleasant experience. Let's understand, anxiety is not about your mind working. Anxiety is about your mind working against you, which means all the emotions that you feel, all the emotional connects that you want to experience, you don't feel that. You feel deprived of it, and we cannot create it in one fine day. It won't happen. We have to take smaller steps towards it. We have to literally build our journey towards that larger idea of being out of our anxiety. So if the anxiety, and again one more thing I keep repeating, anxiety is a pattern, and when you have patterns, when you actually have the whole downward spiral repeating itself, patterns can be broken. So you can hack it, you can crack it, and that's the most beautiful aspect of having this whole idea with anxiety, because the very moment you realize that I am creating these patterns, we can find a way to hack and crack the code to go beyond the patterns. And I want you to pay attention to this aspect. It is of utmost important. Okay, so it's not that you should not be eating the things that I mentioned or like whatever comfort zone. You have to understand what is your compulsiveness behind it. So coming back to our journaling question, so the question is, when I feel this whole need to eat food, or I'm talking about emotional eating, when I'm into the emotional binge eating zone, and this is where the emotional aspects come in, what emotions am I experiencing and what can I do to change them? Okay, so what emotions? So many times we do not know whether we are feeling sad, worried, angry, fearful. What emotions am I compensating for? And when we have no clue about what we are fighting against, then we constantly believe this is the way it should happen, or it must happen, or this is the way to go about it. And that is a problem, that is a challenge. The very moment we realize, okay, I do have a need to go around this, and if I am feeling all of these emotions when I binge eat, first, what emotions am I experiencing here? And the very moment you start paying attention to the emotions, you'll realize that I miss some people, and I feel as if something is lacking in me, or I'm not good enough, or I'm fearing that whole idea of missing out on life and other people are moving ahead and I'm not. Now we got to articulate these things. Most people keep their emotions buried in their hearts without talking about it to anybody, and when that happens, these emotions become like burning coals that keep burning you without anybody knowing about it, whether you not dealing with it. You literally have no clue of what is happening. Okay, so when we pick these emotions and ask ourselves, what can I do about it? You might not get an answer immediately, but it is about asking the question and literally doing the Google search for your mind. And this is the most amazing machine that we have. Currently, you might not believe me because it is working against you, but in order to make it work towards you, to help you build a better muscle and move forward, we have to create that relationship, right? We have to build the whole idea. So coming back, repeating the question again. Thank you, Pramod. Thank you, Rashi, for mentioning the questions in the comment. When I feel the need to binge eat, what emotions am I experiencing here? And what can I do to change them? Because you are my friend, the hero, the creator, the designer, the script writer for this whole game, right? But we do not do it consciously. As I keep talking about it, we'll end up living accidentally. So if we want to follow the simple principle of mind and body, what I was talking about for last pretty much 1 week, I'm saying this over and over again. When the mind is not helping you, when the mind is feeling absolutely useless, then lead from body. When body is absolutely helpless, lead from your mind. Now when it comes to binge eating, the body is going crazy, so we start leading from the mind, which means we start asking these questions. Okay, what am I experiencing right now? Now, should we control the food? Should we not eat things? Should we hide things from our homes? Now, these are not the ideas that would work, because craving or addictions do not go away by things being taken out. you will find ways to always find the things you're looking for. And we all have had those, cravings and addictions, and we all know the experience. It doesn't go away immediately. But if we constantly take care of the root of the problem, where it is coming from, then after some time you don't have to fight it, you don't have to go against it, you don't have to literally alter it, because you can have the same food, like my beautiful coffee. You can just have the food in front of you and you might not feel the need to deal with it by consuming it. It's literally like the little connection. So I before the lockdown, or in this 1 year or 2 years time, I went out with friends to drink coffee. While they were drinking coffee, I actually took a moment to just sniff and enjoy the aroma, and that was the only so-called connection I could have to the whole thing, right? Now these are the aspects that we want to keep in mind, we want to look at. So with that question, keep that question in mind, and I'm gonna get you to the graphotherapy practice, today's Calmsutra practice. So let's get started. All you require is a ballpoint pen and a ruled book. Now the process is simple. Somebody asked me, can you talk about journaling a bit more? So the journaling in general, as we understand, is about writing my emotions on the paper and describing exactly how I feel, what I feel, how I get those things, what I experienced yesterday, last year, when I was a child, and we understand journaling like that. The method that we follow on this in this workshop is called grapho-journaling. It is a 3-step process. First, it begins with me asking you a solution-oriented question. Every single question that we pick up is not about why things went wrong, but it's about first acknowledging so many times about, oh, things have gone wrong, where they have gone wrong, and second is about how can I change them. So it's a lot to do with using the power of your mind to change things, alter things, acknowledge things, accept things. So they're solution oriented questions. They're worded in a manner that they get to your heart, or like they just churn certain aspects of your mind, or things that you're trying to push under the carpet, they just throw the carpet out of the window. So they are like those irritating questions, and they're designed in that manner. So I'm sorry if I'm bothering you with that, but we got to get to the point to solve them. We get to remove the band-aid for me to apply the medicine. So that's why these questions are designed in this twisted manner. So stick to the process. It may sound a little awkward, but if I give you a very logical question, your mind starts rationalizing it. But when I twist it in a manner, your mind cannot catch hold of it, and I get to the emotions that are otherwise hidden from you and from everyone else around you. That's step 1. Step 2 is we will get to the Calmsutra graphotherapy practice, the S-stroke practice, which is called technically the flow of thoughts practice. It creates the flow in the area the emotions are stuck. It works like the medicine that can push things that are not moving. I call it a washing machine process at times, because it really churns certain things that are not in your awareness. So by the time you finish the 10 minutes of one page of graphotherapy and you move to the next page to respond to the question, you're like, I didn't know I think like that. Does that happen to you? Like suddenly the thoughts and words come to your mind where you wonder, like, where are they coming from? And that is the whole credit goes to the S-stroke practice and the way it functions. The third step, once you're done with that one page of practice, you move to step 3, where we will look at the response mechanism. It is always done in a handwritten format, and you set a timer for 15 minutes. So technically, once you're done with this conversation, keep your phone aside, set the timer for 15 minutes, and just go for it. Write everything that comes to your mind. Though the question is about food, sometimes you'll realize that the emotion of somebody who left me and I felt abandoned is coming. I'm like, how is that related? Doesn't matter. 15 minutes, write everything that comes to your mind. And this is how the process happens. You, in order to answer the question, when you're trying to push yourself in that direction, it may happen that you do not get anything. You get blanked out completely. Now in that moment, just sit there and do not get off from your table for 15 minutes till the timer goes off. Stay committed that I'm not going to move out of my position until the timer is off, which means I'm also telling my body and my mind that it has to deal with the journaling that I am talking about. You have to look at the problem that I'm presenting here. So once you put yourself in those situations, your mind somehow figures a way to express. Also, we are so used to pushing our emotions down, Your body and your mind is not used to you listening to it. So when you start asking all these questions, initially it does not trust you. So it takes some time, mostly 3 to 4 days. And if you sit there and you keep repeating the question, give it a minute, repeat it again, but don't get up. Give yourself those 15 minutes of journaling after S-stroke practice, and you will see how it cleanses things that are otherwise not available to you. Okay, so I'm going to repeat this question one more time. Today's journaling question: when I feel the need to binge eat whatever I'm eating, what emotions am I experiencing? And second one, what can I do to change them? So get your ballpoint pen and ruled paper ready. I'm gonna switch the setup to get us going. People who are watching on Facebook and YouTube, you have to wait for this part. We'll check this out. So let's begin by actually having our thoughts or our breathing taken care of. And as we breathe deeper, slightly deeper than normal, let's start doing the stroke. If you know how to do the stroke, you know how to look at things, how to go about it. And if you do not, then go on the link aditisurana.com/lockdown21 and get to learn the stroke. Okay, let's get started. This is a simple stroke that we are looking at. Breathe slightly deeper than normal and continue the formation of the stroke. You can hear the parrots around my home. Each stroke matters. So it doesn't matter how many strokes do you do or how long the formation is. What matters is how well do you breathe, how well do you breathe, how deeper you go in each stroke's involvement. That's what you're focused on. So each stroke has 5 rules that you got to follow, and make sure that you follow each rule. The fifth one being the breathing. So do not do deep breathing the way we do in pranayama. Here we want to do breathing which is slightly longer than your normal breath. you're new here, don't worry, just follow the stroke. I'm gonna stop here. I want you to complete the page after we finish our conversation. And let's get to some FAQs right now. I'll join you on the other side.